Hello everyone, nubkeks here. Welcome back to Nub Raids. In today's video, well, we have some real solid gameplay information about the new clan boss. Here it is, a leak of what appears to be one of its forms, the Viper form, which is very, very interesting. And there is a ton of info here. I'm going to go through it, break it down, the key things to look out for, and some potential things, actually some big things that we're going to be looking for in terms of the champions that you would bring to this battle. So let's check it out. Now, one thing to mention, Viper form, I've heard people talking about, let me see if I can find an image. Okay, yeah, here. So this is pretty cool. I've heard a lot of people talking about this new clan boss potentially being the Chimera, and that is very interesting. That speculation seems to fit very much so with this Viper form. So a Chimera is like this mythological creature that's sort of a fusion of different creatures. Now, there is a mention of a different form in this details that we're going to look at, but nothing about Chimera or anything like that. But I am curious, like the sort of a lion form, a goat form, yeah, then this viper form, perhaps. I don't know. It's something to bear in mind because, yeah, I've heard people saying that in the comment section, and this does actually fit with that speculation. So there you go. Right, let's go through this stuff. So, first of all affinities covered, which is pretty interesting. I don't know how that's going to work. The rarity is boss, the type is boss. Putrid Fang. So the first move, attacks all enemies. If there are any dead enemies, or if the initial attack kills at least one enemy, does an extra hit, and has a 50% chance of placing Fear, True Fear, Freeze, Provoke, Sleep, Stun, or Petrification on each enemy for one turn. That seems, it's a bit random. Sleep's not too bad. Stun is very bad. Petrification is terrible. True Fear is pretty rough. So it seems quite random. It doesn't say anything about these being unresistible or unblockable. So you could potentially resist this. You could potentially block this at block debuffs. And yeah, so lots of crowd control on the A1 becomes pretty brutal if anyone is dead or if it kills anyone. Like two extra hit is probably giving it another chance to crowd control you, and also probably doing good damage. Stinger Cyclone attacks all enemies. This attack does single target damage to each target individually rather than AoE. Kind of interesting that this is now for a boss, not just for us. That's a pretty big deal on some champions against Hydra. Again, that's one of my suggestions for potentially fixing Trunda, is to remove the whole way her A2 works at the moment, seeing as it seems to be a disaster balancing wise, and to make it work like this. So like Vulcanen does this, and it's pretty good. In fact, it's extremely strong. But yeah, so any AoE damage reduction, there are masteries, there's gear sets like Stalwart and Defiant, there's champions like Duchess that reduce AoE damage that you take. This is single target damage, it bypasses that stuff. Before attacking, places Hex and heal reduction, 100% heal reduction on all enemies for 2 turns. Instantly activates all poison debuffs on all enemies 2 times, then transfers all debuffs from the new clan boss. I do like how it's new clan boss to all enemies under Hex or heal reduction debuffs placed by this skill. Increases the new clan boss's turn meter by 5% for each debuff transferred. I mean, this move does so much, doesn't it? It does so much. So, big physical hit, fine. Then Hex and heal reduction, activating all poisons twice. Now, he can actually put out 3 poisons. So, if there are 3 poisons, we'll look at this move in a second. 15%, he activates it twice. That's 30% max HP damage dealt from those poisons. With 25% poison sensitivity, it's more like, what, 30... It's almost 40% of your health gone in one chunk just from poison, on top of being smacked as well. It's pretty rough. Also, this is a 3-turn cooldown, and he transfers all debuffs, or it, or they, or shit, I don't know, transfers all debuffs to enemies under Hex or heal reduction. Again, this seems like it's not unblockable or irresistible. So you could potentially resist these, which is strong. You can also potentially block these with block debuffs, which I think would be very strong as well. Because, yeah, if you don't get the Hex or the heal reduction, if you don't get the poisons, then it's really no problem. You're not getting any debuffs transferred. It should still cleanse all the debuffs off the clan boss, but it won't transfer stuff onto you. But yeah, like if you're going into this and you don't have resistance or you don't have block debuffs, it seems like you're going to get absolutely shreked. Like it's going to be real bad. Haze of Pestilence, then, the third and final skill, attacks all, and actually, no, there is another counter. I just remembered. We'll talk about that in a second. Haze of Pestilence, though, attacks all enemies before attacking, steals all buffs from all enemies except continuous heal buffs, puts 3 poison debuffs on poison sensitivity debuff for 3 turns, then increases all poison debuffs on all enemies by 1 turn, and instantly activates them all. So yeah, this head is all about the poison. So here, stealing all buffs, that's obviously very bad. Now, again, a couple of things you could do. Number 1, high resistance. If your resistance is high enough, you can resist the buff steal, and you're fine. Number 2, protected buffs could be a really big deal. So there's very rare champions. Elatrion Blademaster is a good example. Can put up an unstealable, protected block debuffs. Could be very, very strong. He was actually pretty good for the Odin event dungeon. Interesting that he is actually staying kind of relevant. But yeah, the protection set, 9-piece protection, 75% chance to protect your buffs. That could be really big to stop your block debuffs being stolen. Cool. Bunch of poisons. He's activating more poisons. One thing I do actually really like is that it won't steal continuous heal. I do not. It's something that I find particularly true with Amius. I find that bosses that keep healing themselves massively and you can never kill them can be really annoying. You're like, please just let this fight end. It looks like I'm almost done and he's healed a ton. Oh my god, when is this over? I think boss stealing continuous heal can create a similar sort of feeling. So yeah, but that's interesting. So lots of poisons, all that sort of stuff. Now here's another mention of a form, Unholy Metamorph. Transforms a new clan boss into its ultimate form and removes all buffs and debuffs. This is a passive. There is no information here that I can see as to what triggers this. When does this happen? What is the ultimate form? I don't know, but that's pretty interesting that at some point in the fight, the boss is going to go ultimate form, which is probably going to make it much harder, and, removal. Yeah, so that's very intriguing. Again, no hints sort of here about any sort of chimera or anything. I would say, if we zoom in, this icon, it does look a little bit like a lion's face. It does look a bit like a lion. So there is that. Are there any other... Nothing too... Again, this looks maybe like a bit of a lion's tail, even though it's a fang. It doesn't really look like a fang. This one's just like a hex icon. Yeah, I don't know if we get anything else out of the pictures, but that's kind of interesting. Could be a placeholder, but still. Deathly Contagion. Whenever an enemy is killed, places 1 Necrosis stack on all other enemies. New debuff. Necrosis stacks cannot be resisted or blocked. They can only be removed by reviving dead allies. If multiple champions are revived, number of Necrosis stacks removed is equal to the number of champions revived. Okay, so this is very spicy as well. Either you're going to go in and try to never have anyone ever die. I'm bearing in mind that A1 is also getting stronger whenever anyone is dead. Or maybe you are going to expect people to die, but you want to revive them pretty quickly to remove these necrosis stacks. Don't know what the necrosis stacks are or do. Don't know. But they're probably bad, one assumes. And yeah, again, the A1 is stronger. It's interesting. Now we come to, this is a very, very big one to me. Enemy of Mortality here. Passive effect, revived enemies will have 25% less HP and 25% less turn meter. I don't think these are permanent debuffs. I think it's like, I don't know, when Marishka revives everyone with 75% HP and 75% turn meter. I don't know, will it be additive or multiplicative? Will it be instead of 75, 75, 50, 50? Or will it be instead of 75, like 25, it would be like, I don't know, 57% or 58% or something. I'm not sure. But I think that's probably what it is. I don't think it's a destroyed HP thing or anything like that. Sorry, just got a call from the doctor, so I lost my train of thought. Where was I? I don't know. Talking about this, but now here is the key thing. Let's just jump onto the key thing, because I forgot what I was saying. Whenever the new clan boss kills an enemy, removes any block active skills debuffs from itself. Now that is very interesting. What this means, and if we come down here, he's immune to a lot of stuff. He's immune to block passive skills, to fears, true fears, Hunter's Gaze, whatever that is, Berserk, Enfeeble, bunch of stuff. Not immune to block active skills. So I don't know if this is going to be every form of this boss, but definitely for this Viper form, you can put block active skills on. And this makes me very curious, considering this passive about killing enemies and necrosis stacks, and the A1 being stronger if there's dead enemies, if it kills an enemy. I wonder if there might be interesting strategies where either you come in and let him do his active skills, and you just have, protected block debuffs or cleansers, or you time it with manual play to put up block debuffs after he does the A3. Some sort of manual play or team building where you let him do the moves. Because it does seem like, I could just block active skills. I wonder if his A1 hits really, really hard. And that's sort of the thing. Like, if you block active skills, yeah, you don't have to deal with any of this. But the boss is just clapping your team AoE constantly. I wonder if that's how it's going to be. And obviously, if he does kill you, it removes block active skills. That could be really bad. If he kills your block active skills champion, that's not good. Because now, if you had blocked it, he should have his other moves ready to go. If you've been blocking them, they're off cooldown, they're good to go, and he's just killed somebody, you could be in for a world of hurt. So that is pretty interesting. We also have a passive here. At the start of his turn, transfers all poison debuffs to all enemies, and they last for 2 turns. So it seems like you're not supposed to really use poison against it, or like, because the boss poisons you a ton, like he's putting out a lot of poisons, you could, with some champions, reflect that back. It seems like he probably will still take. I noticed down here he'll still take damage from the poisons, I think. But after he takes damage from the poisons, I think then he just puts them all on you automatically as well. So yeah, it doesn't seem like poison's going to be a mainstream strategy. Slightly, unfortunately. There's an active effect here with a 5-turn cooldown, which will deny one enemy a revival attempt. If multiple enemies are revived at once, denies one random revival attempt. Okay, so straightforward enough. Very, very curious. Is this going to be a case where I never want to revive? Okay, just build a team where nobody dies and we never revive. Or is it like I will need to revive people with these necrosis stacks, but it's going to be really punishing? Very curious about that. And will this be a similar thing on the other forms of the boss? I just don't know. As we touched on here, he is immune to a lot of these debuffs, but not everything. Immune to cooldown increasing effects, turn meter reduction, HP exchange and balancing, destroy max HP. Not going to be a thing for this boss, at least this form of this boss either. Here we go. Max HP can be 100,000 on easy. Interesting difficulties. We've got easy, normal, hard, brutal, nightmare, and ultra nightmare. That's actually a pretty big deal. So, like with Hydra, it starts at normal and it ends at nightmare. This is going to be a Demon Lord style where it starts at easy and goes all the way up to ultra nightmare. I would I don't know. I would expect for most players, you're not going to walk into ultra nightmare and just be smashing it. I expect that's going to take a while. I am curious if they will add, for instance, new area bonuses. I wonder if that's something that's going to happen. Will there be like new area, but like maybe a grade 4 area bonus for this new boss? I've now made much better progress on Hydra. I've been doing a lot more live arena. Will there be new area bonuses? Stuff like that. But there's so many difficulties. And I hope this is good. I hope that it means that this boss, even if you are a brand new player, that you'll be able to do some of the difficulties and work your way up and see steady progress. It's very interesting, I think, again, that the difficulties are Demon Lord style and not Hydra style. That it seems like they're aiming for a much broader range. So that's cool. That's cool. Their straight up is actually pretty big news. So yeah, and we can see the max HP. It's only scaling up a bit. 100,000 for max HP on easy, 120 on normal, 140 on hard, 160 on brutal, 180 on nightmare, 200,000 on ultra nightmare. So ultra nightmare, you're doing twice as much damage basically with max HP. So there you go. Poisons, 2.5% poisons, 10,000 HP. 5% poisons, 20,000. This seems to be regardless of difficulty. So yeah, that's kind of interesting. The 5% poison does as much damage against the easy difficulty as the ultra nightmare difficulty. That's how I read it, which is intriguing because this is based on HP. This damage is also based on HP, but this one is changing and this one is not. HP burns are capped at 40,000, so HP burns probably still going to be pretty good. Reflected now, here's a spicy one too. Reflected damage and damage taken from War Master or Giant Slayer cannot exceed 100,000. So if we're going in and hoping, hey, whip out the Geomancer boys, let's go. Geo's going to solo this boss. Seems like they're not going to let that happen. So yeah, there you go. Yeah, again, this is one thing. Because they are very reluctant to ever nerf any champions, it's the whole spicy Hydra debate right now. they have to start adding in a lot of stuff to yeah. If they think that a strategy is bad, they won't nerf the champions, but they'll add stuff in like this. But yeah, just watch out for that. Reflected damage. I'm trying to think of, does this really affect other champions or strategies? Geomancer is the one that stands out. I don't know if others really stand out. But yeah, so I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, so War Master Giants, they're still going to be the very strong 100,000 damage. Damage taken from smite debuffs cannot exceed 100,000. That actually goes up to 350,000 on Ultra Nightmare. So I just think this is really intriguing that there's very different scaling. Poisons, same, and HP burn, and War Master, and all of that, reflected damage, all do the same amount of damage on every difficulty. Enemy max HP goes from 100,000 to 200,000. But then the smite debuff from the blessing goes from 100,000 to 350. It goes up 3.5 times. It's a much bigger scaling. That's very interesting. It does make it seem to me that, yeah, I wonder if like, I'm wondering how much this boss scales. Initially in this, it seems like it won't scale too much, but then looking at the smite thing, it seems like it will scale a lot. So I don't really know what to expect there. But yeah, there you are. Let me know. What do you think about this? Again, my initial thoughts on this, lots of AoE damage coming in. You're definitely going to need like shielders, protectors. 9-piece protection set seems like a game changer here to protect your buffs from being stolen. Seems massive, massive. Like having Sifi with the 9-piece protection set, extending those protected buffs, that sort of thing seems crazy good. Yeah, any champs that protected buffs seem like they could be really, really strong. Yeah, even some champions being immune to poison is pretty good too. Cleanser's very strong as well. Yeah, I'm intrigued. Let me know. What do you think about this? What's your initial impression? I'd say it's only one form. I'm very curious how many forms there's going to be and what the hell this ultimate form is. But that's sort of everything we have to piece together here. I guess one thing to look at, if we look at block active skills, there's not a lot of champions that do it. Bystophis, Killian the Lucky, Cleoptrix, Countess Lix, Hegemon, Karato. Ramantu's a pretty big one that everyone can eventually get. So it's kind of limited. Luke, like, these are, I'd say, not super hyped champions, really. Very few of these are very hyped at all. Bellower is a nice budget option for players. Ethelyn the Golden, actually very good at it too. He's sort of an AoE damage dealer with block active skills. He's pretty darn good for a new player. So he could be very strong for this. Now, single target, Lydia is a big one. Lydia can block active skill single target. That is massive as well because she's guaranteed. Elagaius and Gamaran, Norog. Some pretty rubbish champions could actually be pretty good. Jingwan actually may be pretty strong. Actually very strong, I'd say, Jingwan here. I think Phoenix kind of unreliable. Like, there's just not a lot of block active skill champions. It's just pretty sparse right now. I would say, again, my initial thoughts would be that Ramantu and Lydia are going to be really crucial here. I said Jingwan seems pretty good too. Yeah, very curious because Jingwan, he can also he's immune to the crowd control stuff. He can cleanse people of that crowd control stuff and give them block debuffs. That's really nice too. And then, yeah, he's got block active skills and block buffs on a 3-turn, and he can extend debuffs and anything. It's pretty good. He can transfer debuffs back. He could do decrease accuracy as well with strengthen for your team. Jingwan could genuinely be great for this boss, guys. Genuinely could. He's looking pretty solid. Like, if I was to pick any champ right now that could be insanely good for this boss, Jingwan is maybe the one that's standing out to me. Yeah, and like I said, I do think another one that's standing out to me could be really, really good is Latrion Blade Master. You can't get him anymore, though. But block debuffs, that's protected. And a shield debuff, and an increased defense debuff that are protected. And those are on 3-turn cooldowns when booked. Pretty nice, right? Fills his turn meter when a debuff is placed. And that could be really good. Yeah, cool. Let me know what you think. See you next time. Goodbye.